The following transmission is a conversation with BobbyBear, modder, game developer, and the lead developer of Commonwealth Online, a Fallout 4 co-op multiplayer experience mod project. Having been modding both individually as well as part of larger mod projects for several years, Bobby has spent the last 3 months working on a multiplayer experience mod for Fallout 4. Originally began as a way for him and his friends to play Fallout 4 together, in such a short time, it has already become a fully functional co-op experience, with ambitions to expand its capabilities to over a dozen players, all with single-game mod support. In collaboration with this project, this interview serves to coincide with the public beta release, currently open and live testing in the mod's Discord server. If you or your friends are interested in helping to test the mod, check the description for links to join in. Over the course of our conversation, we'll talk about the Commonwealth Online mod project, AI's place in both art and coding, and Bobby's history both with modding as well as bringing this unique gaming experience to life. I am follower Toshi, and this is the Atomcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow for future episodes, and consider subscribing to our Patreon for early access to new uploads, to help keep episodes ad-free, and to improve the quality and frequency of transmission. As always, links to our Patreon, as well as guest socials, can be found in the description, and be sure to leave a comment recommending creators who you'd like to see as future guests. Without further ado, BobbyBear. So, as we very briefly touched on so far, you have a history in modding, but the current project that you're working on is slightly different than what most modders would, or like most people who mod their games would consider like an atypical mod, right? The Commonwealth Online is it's a bit more than just like, a world space mod or like a system editing mod or like a patch or anything like that. It's sort of like a bigger thing in and of itself. So from your perspective, as from your previous modding experience, going into the Commonwealth Online, what have been some of the more technical challenges? How's it been different from some of the mod works that you've done in the past?
Well, my specialty is actually level design and 3D art. So this has been a whole new adventure for me. And as far as coding experience, I code a lot of websites as far as that goes. And script and, Unreal Engine coding and Unity and stuff. But even though Unreal Engine uses C++ and I've used it before for some things, making a mod like this for Fallout 4 is completely different. It's almost like it's a completely different language to C++.
Was it mostly from like, because I find it interesting that you said that you started off from a level design and a 3D art perspective, primarily because while level design is slightly different, those are both more so like design or artistic focuses, whereas what the Commonwealth Online is very, very, very heavily code based.
Yes.
Very different from, the more artistically focused. It's a technical skill rather than an artistic or design one. I mean, I guess you could make an argument that code is design, but I think you get what I mean. But how did that transition happen, where you went from a more creative or specifically artistic discipline into a project that was so not wildly differently, but dramatically differently into a very coding heavy system?
Well, I've even though my specialty is level design and 3D art, I have always been a coder, I guess. So because I love like making websites, because I have the philosophy of if I make something, it needs to both work well and look good. if I make something, I try to follow through with it.
Mhm.
So like level design, I also do scripting because I guess it's a little bit of control. I like, because it's kind of hard describing your ideas to people and it's all in your head. So it's like, I can just do it. I've always done coding and I've always modded Fallout 4, but I was like, I haven't used a script extender and I haven't modded like this before. So I was like, I'll give it a go. And it also stemmed from the fact that since Fallout 76 came out, like for the few years after that, I was like, every announcement, I was like, oh, they're gonna, release the creation kit for it. Are they gonna do modding on private worlds and stuff? 8 years later, they haven't done that, and I was like, well, I want to make mods that I can also play with my friends, but Fallout 76 doesn't allow modding, so I was like, might as well give this a go.
And that was more so like the larger onus. You had a you came from an aspect of a background of coding where you said specifically with like websites and stuff. And as somebody who's done a very 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 small amount of web design myself, like you said, there is a bit of like, with like any project that you sort of like come up with your own, there is a level of like more so, how do I describe it? Total agency in a sense, right? You have the entire idea in your head, and from design to coding to development, it all is like in your head and you see it all played out, perfectly. Unfortunately, the rough part about reality is what we see in our head doesn't always get translated to the real world too often.
Yeah.
But from more so that design aspect, I can see the bridge that you took to get from where you started to eventually making something like the Commonwealth Online. It's interesting, more so specifically that you say it stemmed mostly from wanting to mod Fallout 76 and then wanting to make mods that you can play with your friends. I think that's a really interesting perspective, because it more so, maybe not more so, but a big part from it comes from the community aspect that was both a big element and still is a big element of Fallout 76, and the design aspect, because when you make anything artistic or creative, you naturally want to share it with the people around you. When it comes to, so I guess maybe the first thing, two things actually. Have you seen the ongoing project? What was it? Tales from Apalachia?
I have. I'm actually a tester for that.
Really? Oh well. I guess if I were to ask, what are your thoughts and opinions on that, you would have a deeper connection to that whole ecosystem. Is that something that you can talk about in any capacity?
Well, it's something I've always hoped could happen, but I always, I guess, assumed it wasn't possible, both from a technical standpoint, because the Fallout 76 creation engine and the Fallout 4 creation engine are different, but also from a legal standpoint of, it's very well known that you can't use assets from other Bethesda games in your mods. So I just assumed that even if it was technically possible, that'd be out of the books. But from being a part of this world for the past few months, I've learned that it's fine as long as you're not actually using the assets, as long as it's the user doing it on their machine.
That makes sense. Yeah, because it's not like it's not just a monetary thing, but yeah, that makes sense. And then the other question would be, with the you've probably most likely definitely seen this recently. We even sort of briefly touched on it in our conversations before setting up this interview. There's a similar project that is properly playable, and people have been playing it for at least a brief while at this point. I don't know if it has an official name, but there's a lot of Elder Scrolls on, or like Skyrim specifically, Skyrim online role playing servers, and people will
Yes.
take on the personas of different characters, the like basic setting of the world, like the basic narrative setting is that it's like 20 years or something, like after the events of Skyrim. So anybody who's there currently is sort of like removed from what happened, and they just kind of make their own story and stuff like that. What can you do? You have any like big thoughts and opinions on that?
I loved the idea of Skyrim together and those role playing servers because that I love role playing games. I love games with a story, which is funny because everyone else in my family hates games with stories and just like first person shooters. But so I also, I haven't played much Dungeons and Dragons, but I love the concept of Dungeons and Dragons, of creating your own stories with your friends and other people. And so, like, if Dungeons and Dragons was like the full, you know, board game, but it was actually a role playing game online, I'd be so into that, like full everything. But so yeah, but also I love Fallout. Fallout's what got me into role playing. So I was like, well, I want to, there's so much potential here for me to do role playing with my friends. So, because I know everybody shits on the Brotherhood, but I actually quite like the Brotherhood.
Is there a specific iteration of the Brotherhood that's like, your favorite version? Like, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, New Vegas, anyone specific?
Stylistically, Fallout 4, because of the Pridwin and the outfits and the power armor. But from an actual faction standpoint, I'd probably have to say it would be like Fallout 1 or Fallout 2's Brotherhood.
Where they're a little bit more of like, not culty, but a lot more like mysticism focused, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my actual favorite faction, which I would love to explore with, play with on Commonwealth Online when I get my friends and stuff on it, is America Rising, the Enclave mod, because if I have that mod installed, I'm playing as the Enclave.
So you're with Commonwealth Online specifically, you're also trying to, because it's not just like, maybe not most, but a decent amount of conceptually world box mods, right? Like, New California, Fallout London, the various different mods that are currently in development, Cascadia, Miami, et cetera. All of them are sort of like, new world spaces and such. And as a result, occasionally some mods will get made like for those projects specifically, but not often, right? They're usually like not really closed circuit, but they're a lot more like insulated, right? The world space is the mod, and so like people don't usually try to like mod on top of that, right? They don't usually try to add additional content to those mods on top of what's already there. With Commonwealth Online, it's different because unlike something like Tales from Apalachia, where it is like technically a new world space mod, it's still the same game. There's just that additional system layer that adds the multiplayer functionality, but it's not replacing. At least I'm kind of going out. I'm bravely going out on a limb that I feel I'm accurate about, egotistically. But I'm imagining that it's not like one of those situations where like, here's this project and like adding a whole bunch of like extra stuff on top of it is going to create like, all these like weird problems. You're literally just adding like a second player character, like a second camera to the game.
Yeah. So basically, because I've thought about this, modding is a big thing, and the goal is to support mods eventually, is that I've tried to make it so everything is base game. Like when it comes to quests, what it does is it gets when I implement that, it will get, if you're on a team, it will get the player who's leading the team's quest ID when they get the quest, and we'll share that with the other players. So quests would work. And also because it's just spawning an NPC that is basically pretending to be the player, that will work in any world space, any cell. It will work if you both have the mods installed. It will work with clothing, weapons, because it's getting the IDs from the player.
And just like that, it's just basically like not a copycat, but like what's a good way to phrase it? Kind of like when you run, kind of like how you can run with like specific software, of course. Kind of like how you can run multiple instances of the same software on your computer at the same time, when that software is usually designed to be ran as like a single thing.
Yeah, that's actually how I test the mod.
Let's talk more so specifically about Commonwealth Online. We've sort of, touched on it a little bit here and there, talked about like specific elements of it. If you were to give like a general, like maybe not an elevator pitch, but if you were selling the idea of Commonwealth Online, how would you phrase it? How would you describe it? How would you hype it up? What's I guess the real question is, what is Commonwealth Online?
It's what people hoped Fallout 76 would be. Or at least they wish 76 had it, which is just the story of Fallout 4, but you can play with your friends.
I guess the technical aspect of it, like you said, you're effectively just recreating a second camera, effectively run a secondary instance of the player character on the game, so that you can like obviously play co-op style. Is this something that you're mostly trying to create and focus in making as a co-op experience specifically, or is it something that like over time you want to eventually like turn into something closer to like a role-playing server kind of thing? Like I'm sorry, I missed what the name of the online role-playing Skyrim server thing was. What was it again?
Skyrim Together.
That's what it was, Skyrim Together. Are you trying to make a system more like that, or are you mostly trying to build it as like a strictly like co-op player thing?
The end goal would be, to have role-playing capabilities, where each player can join different factions and they can fight and whatever. But the main goal right now is to just get it so you can actually play the story with your friends.
I remember playing like old school World of Warcraft, right? And I remember playing with like friends and whatnot. But usually, or at least back then, I don't know if it's still the case now. I don't play Warcraft anymore. Back then, if you were playing with friends and you went to go do a quest, they would also have to do the quest, because all of the quests were sort of like instant focused. So you couldn't really do a quest together, but you could do a quest at the same time, right? So if you needed to like go out into the woods and, fucking kill boars or whatever, or like hunt down rogue undead, you would each have to do that like separately. It wouldn't be like, you team up and you got to take down 10. So you take down 6, your friend takes down 4. And it sounds like you're not trying to create, at least in the right now, the design focus isn't more towards an experience where both players can effectively play the game at the same time, and the world in one world space, right? So one person can go and play with like doing stuff for the Brotherhood. The other person can go and do stuff for the Minutemen, and they can both like, rise up the ranks in that. And it's applying to both. Is it that, or is it closer to like this, both players are doing the same quest kind of thing? Or are they playing just strictly the main story, and any advancement that one player makes is also applied to the other player? Because it's one world box, right? It's not like an instance world box. You're just duplicating the player a second time.
Yeah. So like the end goal would be to have it so each player can join a separate faction and work it through the ranks and have battles against each other and things like that. But right now the goal is to make it so that they can be in the same world and see each other and see how they both affect the world. And the way quests will work is, if because to get it to work properly is, in my head, you would join a team. So you'd set up a team because the ideal is 16 plus players in a server. So you set up a team with 4 of you, and if the one of you gets a quest, the rest of you get it. And so if player 1 gets the quest, player 4 can work through the quest and complete it, while the other 3 players also progress through it while not actually playing it. So when player 4 completes the quest, the other 3 will get the experience points and complete the quest as well.
Mhm.
But that would also allow the other 3 players to join player 4 while he's completing the quest.
Yeah. So like you're all experiencing the quest at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting that you said that specifically with like, they can have like, faction battles and stuff like that. What is sort of like the larger conceptual picture there? I mean, obviously it's like, one person can join the Brotherhood, the other person can join like the Railroad, and they can like, fight each other and stuff like that. Is that more so like something you want to facilitate on a, not really like headcanon level, but like, in that like role playing sort of style where, it's like, you can't really like mechanically get all the pieces together, like summon like troops and like have them fight each other and go on this like whole like conquest. There we go. This whole like campaign, like Hearts of Iron or anything like that, but for the Commonwealth. Or like is that sort of like the big, like the initial end goal, or do you have like a different sort of like design approach specifically? I'm interested in the idea, the vision that you got here. Walk us through that a little bit.
So the point I'd like to get it to is where one player could join the Institute and the other player could join the Brotherhood. And when it comes to the end game, where it's the nuclear option, it wouldn't be dependent on which faction the player's in. It would be dependent on if the Brotherhood can get through the Institute and kill all the synths and kill the player and blow up the Institute, or if the player playing with the Institute can kill the Brotherhood and then go blow up the Pridwin, just who can do it first.
That's interesting. It kind of becomes a little bit there's a specific game I'm thinking of that sort of has like a similar sort of design approach where you're like both playing the same story and then you sort of like split off and then you kind of have to fight over what the ending is. I can't remember the name of the game specifically, but that is an interesting design approach. Is it specifically eventually would you, because like obviously first step is just making sure that it's functional, but eventually would you have like those abilities to bring in like additional like fire support, or is it mostly like you're running alongside the actively staged quest, right? Because every quest like is set up to run and to execute in a specific way. These NPCs move over here, they do this, they see that these guys are enemies, they shoot at them, on and on and on. And then the other person is experiencing the other side of that, where they're being attacked by opposing factions, Brotherhood, Institute, stuff like that. And then they fight and they take those out. But the quest where the Institute is for like somebody who's playing an Institute run, they are experiencing that side of the quest. And if the other side of the quest that the secondary player is playing for like, the Brotherhood or whatever, if they fail that quest for the Brotherhood, the Institute one continues to go, and that becomes the end game state. Is that I guess more so the question is like how is death and how are like failed states going to work in this mod project? Because if you die in Fallout, you die for real. Everybody knows that, but it's a no go backsies kind of situation. How are you working around that specifically?
The thing is, like, when one faction defeats the other, I don't want people to get locked out of anything. So, yes, the Pridwin may be blown up, but Captain Cowles and Proctor Quinlan might be at a hidden Brotherhood bunker in Cambridge or something. And so you can still do the Irradiant quests. like if you killed the Brotherhood player while they were fighting the Institute inside trying to blow it up, then the player would fail that quest and then get another quest to defend the Brotherhood, while the Institute player would go and do what the Institute does and uses Liberty Prime to blow up the Pridwin.
I remember several years ago, and it's probably still like an act. I actually don't know if it's still an ongoing thing, but I remember several years ago, one of the big like, quote unquote news stories, the headline piece for the Fallout community was that somebody had managed to successfully create like basically like Fallout New Vegas online, and they were there were all these like every once in a while you'd see a video of like, multiple people playing Fallout New Vegas at the same time. I don't know if that is that still is that still a thing, or did I hallucinate all that?
I remember that there is a Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas multiplayer mod. So yeah, that is a thing.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if that was still ongoing, and it's like, because I feel like something like that more with any sort of like online, single player turned online or co-op role playing experience, multiplayer role playing experience. It's always something that's usually like a bigger focus, like within those niches, right? A project like Fallout London, grew beyond just like, Fallout 4 fandom or even the Fallout fandom in general because of like, the scope and the scale and the sort of like level of prestige that it eventually garnered. But with a project like that, it's usually something that like more people are going to be more interested in because they're already like Fallout New Vegas fans, right? The conceptual idea of that, turning a single player experience into a multiplayer or a co-op, or sort of like, an online role playing sort of experience. There's always interesting things that come up. Obviously there's things like, balancing. I would feel that most of, if not all of the like major fights in Fallout New Vegas were like a cakewalk when you got like 7 of your buddies there to back you up. And with Commonwealth Online, you for the like right now you have a more simplistically balanced system where it's just like, you and one other player. But as you said, you eventually want to grow that to allow for like more and more, more players. What sort of planning or what sort of like approach do you have when it comes to balancing in that regard? Is it a case of like, hey, this is just for funsies, I'm not, trying to make this like not like a huge thing, but I'm not trying to make this like something bigger than it actually is. I just want to, make this possible. And I'm not concerned with like, balancing stuff. I'm just concerned with creating a fun environment for which people can, get in and play around with. Or are you taking balancing into account when it comes to like, enemy density or difficulty?
Yes, the thing is, I just want to get it to where it's fun to play, but also, like, the plan is that the person hosting the server will set, like, the difficulty to be easy or hardcore, and so that will affect enemy difficulties, but also it would level with the players. So, much like how the enemies currently level with the player, they would level to the player's level, basically, like it already does.
I guess that does make sense, because you did say previously that like if one player finishes a quest, the other person would also receive the same amount of experience, so they would level at the same time. I guess that also brings up the other question: would both players be able to get companions? Like, would one person have like Nick and the other person would have like Piper or Strong or something?
Companions are something I've talked about with the Doxer, who's the other person I'm working with, and it is difficult, basically, because the companion has to be assigned to a player, and it can't be assigned to an NPC.
Mm-hmm.
So a solution that we've come up with that could work is the companion is assigned to the team. So instead of each player having their own companion, is if you're in a team, the team has the companion. So it's like an extra player in a way.
So then it more so becomes like it's you and your friend, and then you can get like, you know, because, you know, dog meat is a free slot. You can get dog meat, and then you can get like, you know, again, Cade or X688 or anybody else.
Yeah, because also it would be kind of weird to have like 4 Nick Valentines running around the world.
Yeah, and like that was one thing that I was also sort of like contemplating in my head. It was like, okay, so that means that, because like we said, like you said, it's not really like an instance situation where like each player is experiencing a different instance of the game. They're all just like in the same world space. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, especially if he's eventually going to try to, you know, expand the number of players. There's only like a certain number of companions in the game, but if you allow for each individual person to grab a companion as well, sure, maybe with just like 2 people, you got like, you know, 4 companions, and it's like, okay, you know, we got something a little bit more for like, you know, like a slightly bigger skirmish, right? Like taking on like the Dunwich Borers mine is going to be a little bit more of a fair fight, as opposed to just, you know, one guy running through and somehow sliming out an entire cave system of raiders. But then in larger numbers, you're eventually going to have enough people to get all the companions, and you're just going to have a massive army of people rolling up on, you know, 5 raiders in like a fucking, you know, burnt out Slocum's Joe or something. It's a little bit it's a little bit harder of a it's a little bit more extreme of a balancing situation.
Yeah.
But with what you said with like teams and stuff like that, like the group, right, and only applying like specific like setting the companion number to the group specifically, that makes a lot of sense. That's actually pretty creative. With a lot of the more creative solution focused problems that you've come up against, or just like the technical problems, what has been like some of the biggest challenges that you've had with developing this mod so far?
Animations has been the hardest thing, because the whole step of the way you are fighting the Fallout 4 engine. I literally spent like a week and a half, 2 weeks trying to get animations to work, and they were not working. And when they did work, they weren't working properly. Like when you were running, it was a brisk walk animation. Because, yeah, I'd have to say that it's just, in general, fighting the Fallout 4 engine, because you're not actually sharing the world with the other player. The other player is actually just an NPC that is being told where the player's location is, their rotation, what gun they're holding, what they're doing, what they should be doing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the NPC is, from information sent to the server, is guessing what it should be doing.
And when it comes to animation, because those things are a lot more fine-tuned in a sense, it's more of a it's more difficult, just because it's more nuanced and more like hyper specific.
Yeah, and it's also because like you can't actually force. You can force the NPC to do an animation, but if you're forcing them to do a walking animation, then they won't do a jump animation. They won't do a crouch animation. They won't hold a weapon. So what you actually have to do is you have to trick the NPC into thinking that it is walking around. Because another thing is, you're not telling the NPC where to go. We're actually teleporting the NPC around. Without that, the AI thinks it's standing still. So you need to actually make it think that it's walking.
Because you've said that you worked with the like creating like mod projects and stuff for Fallout 4, and that's sort of like what got you into like game design specifically. But when it comes specifically to Fallout 4 modding, I don't know how to mod, like even a little bit, even something like easy. I would probably just like fucking end up bricking my computer. At least, well, I can mod like my playthrough, but like creating mods, that's a whole different thing. But when it comes to modding technology, from the people I've talked to and the friends that I have that are like active modders and like actually tinker around with these tools and whatnot, it seems like every iteration since probably like Morrowind has just gotten like better and better and better and better, right? Oblivion was better than Morrowind. Fallout 3 and New Vegas's engine was better than Oblivion. Skyrim was better than Fallout 3, etc. Fallout 4, 76, Starfield, yada yada yada. Each is easier than the other, but it seems as if when it comes to the creation engine specifically, various iterations, it is a lot of like technical wizardry. Like you most likely saw that Bethesda announced that they're going to be making, I believe it's Elder Scrolls 7 specifically. 7. Wow. Elder Scrolls. Yeah, they're just skipping 6 altogether and going straight to 7. I actually saw a TikTok video where she was absolutely just like, playing it for a goof, but she's all like, the reason they're taking so long to make Elder Scrolls 6 is because they're also going to shadow drop Elder Scrolls 7 at the same time, hit us with the fucking like 2-season Netflix special kind of thing, leave us wanting more,
That would explain.
I know, right? Fucking like Todd Howard has a chance to do the funniest thing.
You know something absolutely hilarious?
Yeah.
Skyrim came out when I was 4, and by the time the Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, I'll be in my last year of university.
Yep. I've been seeing a lot of commentary around like that, specifically like how long it's been since since Skyrim or since Fallout 4. Fallout 4 specifically, and then even still like Fallout 76. Like Fallout 76 is 8 years old at this point. That's crazy.
Yeah, I played the beta.
Yeah, I missed out on the beta, but I was there like day one. Didn't experience a lot of the same issues that a lot of other people were experiencing, but I mean, I probably just got lucky. Which is funny to say because when the game like first came out, I live streamed it, and for the entire live stream, I didn't know that my microphone was muted. So that was great. Like 3-4 hours just quietly walking around.
Well, I mean, out of all the Fallout worlds, I think Fallout 76 world is the best to do that in.
It is a very it does have a very sort of like meditative quality to it sometimes, right? Especially sort of like the day one version where there wasn't like a bunch of NPCs, or I mean there was, but like, there wasn't humans you could like bump into and interact in. It was a lot of just like you're wandering around. It's kind of like wandering around at night, Nobody else is really out. Yeah. Every once in a while, like maybe you run into like something like, oh, there's a cat, or like, oh, there's a car passing over there, something like that. It's very quiet. It's very peaceful in a sense, which for Fallout is funny to say because, there's a 10% chance that you're going to round the corner and run into like a fucking Snallygaster or the Mothman or something. Yeah. Something absolutely horrifying. But yeah, early Fallout 76 definitely had, I mean, besides it being buggy and insane sometimes, it did have a very peaceful atmosphere to it.
Fallout 76, in my opinion, is, from a design-wise, is, I think, the best Fallout world from a, visual design-wise. Just because it has that, it retains the Fallout vibe while also kind of adding a bit more to it. Yeah, and
I think the map specifically is very interesting. I remember one of the sort of like I remember it was probably in like a design video, like, oh, behind the scenes, and we're like the developers, talk about the process, talk about why they did some of the stuff that they did. One of the things that really stood out to me about how they were talking about the map was that one of the big design focuses that they focused in that they focused on was creating a lot of like,
a lot of hills, right? West Virginia is very hilly, so they wanted to incorporate much more of that into the game design. So you didn't really have to use the map. You could literally just like run up on top of one of the hills, and like, you know, look around and get an idea of like where you are, where you were going. A lot of focus seemed to have gone into designing the map in very recognizable ways, whether that be the actual sectors of the map, like, you know, the forest, the divide, the toxic valley, you know, all these different areas that have wildly different topography to each of them. So it's easy to figure out like where you are at any given moment, and then like if you know, maybe not lose direction because you do still have a compass. So like, you know, north, south, east, west, all that good shit. But if you're trying to get somewhere specifically, you can easily just like run to the top of a hill or find a landmark and sort of like figure out where you are from there. And I thought that was a really interesting design perspective. It sort of plays into the minimalist gameplay, a lot less focused on, you know, telling the player like what to do or how to do something, and instead allowing them to experience how to do that for themselves.
And also, I remember the first couple years playing Fallout 76, it was kind of like a wow special moment when you just randomly stumbled across another player or another player's camp. And that's kind of something I would like to have in Commonwealth Online, where you can just stumble upon a player walking down downtown Boston and be like, hey, there's a player. There's another person that's playing the game.
One of the interesting things with Commonwealth Online specifically, because it's clear, like from just our conversation so far, it's clear that you've taken a lot of inspiration for the project from Fallout 76. But design wise, or at least like, you know, design approach wise, right? There's, I think, an interesting difference between creating a co-op experience. And this is one of the things that I sort of like think about every time I see somebody online who is like, you know, oh, we didn't want Fallout 76. We didn't want an online experience. We wanted a co-op experience, right? I mean, you know, I think that in and of itself is valid, right? There are some aspects of online play that I don't really like. I like Fallout 76, but there's a lot of, you know, onlineification of some things that are just kind of like, I guess this is just, I just have to deal with this. But co-op is very different. I mean, as it is now, it's just a co-op thing because you're, you know, trying to make it like work and stuff like that. But you did put out a video that showcased like, you know, the game working and stuff. And both of the players spawn out of a cave, I believe near Sanctuary. It's not a standard cave if I'm recognizing properly. It's an added cave. But people are coming from the same area, but because everybody who's playing is sort of not experiencing, but like all the quests and stuff are being completed like along the same lines. Is there an eventuality where, I guess more so specifically, is the design approach more a multiplayer co-op in which you can get like more than just two people in order to like play the main game? Or are you trying to design it more like Fallout 76 where you can start the game, play it, and then somebody else can start the game and then they can play it, and then like you said, you have that like natural encounter in Boston or whatever? Is it more server focused where anybody can like hop in and out? Or is it more instance focused where you have to sort of like invite people in?
I take inspiration from Fallout 76 because Fallout 76 did do a lot of things right when it came to making Fallout multiplayer. It's just they made it an MMO. I think that's kind of the problem, is that it was an MMO. Whereas what I want to do is, there is both the option, because the other guy I'm working with, his mod is actually peer-to-peer, so you could connect directly to the other player's game. Whereas what I'm doing is like a Minecraft, you host the server on a VPS or something, and the players connect to that. And when I bring out when I release the mod on the 1st of August, so in a few days, because I'm doing that, no matter what state it's in, I'm releasing it so people can play it and see that you can at least fight other players and things. I am going to host a couple servers for people to join, which will be which you'll see in the server browser. So there is that option of joining servers that are public. You can also join private servers that your friends are hosting, or you can connect directly to another player's game. That peer-to-peer thing isn't going to be in the release coming up because that's still testing, but that is a goal. So if you just want to, if you're playing Fallout 4 and you're like, I want my friend to join, you just say that you just activate the world and the player can join.
Everybody listening to this right now, this episode will be out by August 1st. So go and play it. Go and test it out. Stress test this because this project has a lot of potential.
Please do, because as I said, the goal for like an actual server is 16 players. But I mean, if we can see if we can get 100, I mean, even if that breaks my internet, I want to see if we can do it.
See if it's possible. Yeah, do it just to do it.
Make me open up more servers. Make me buy a VPS.
Do it. That's how these things work. Because I for like the longest time, right, have constantly been saying like, you know, because there's definitely like not valid criticism, but a lot of the times you see people like being very critical of like a game or a company, you know, this, that, and the other thing for, you know, both valid and kind of silly reasons, in my opinion anyway. But I've always been like a huge advocate of like, hey, you know, if you don't like the direction that something is going, like you have the free will and the agency to like make your own thing. So I've always been like, you know, if you know, want there to be like a specific kind of game that is out there, or think that there should be a specific kind of game or a specific kind of, you know, project or anything like that, do it. Go out there. We live especially for gaming, we live in a golden age of game development technology. We have, you know, like you were talking about how you work with like Unreal and Unity. We have Godot, we have Game Maker, we have all these things. You don't even need to go outside of you know, the Bethesda ecosystem. The creation kit is right there. You can literally make your own Fallout games in Fallout. It's crazy. It's kind of like a turducken of Fallout, but it's right there. And we know that it works too, because, you know, London was a thing and Miami is a thing and all these other projects. And it's like literally the only thing that's sort of holding anybody back from making something awesome like that is mostly commitment. And then also, you know, things like, you know, feature creep and scope and stuff like that. Obviously, you know, if you make something too big, you're never going to finish it.
If Bethesda let people make money off mod projects, Miami would be out, Cascadia would be out. We'd probably have the equivalent of 20 new Fallout games by now.
Yeah.
Because working on projects like that, the biggest thing is we have to do it as a hobby, because we still have to go to university or we still have to work a job. First of all, that takes away passion, because when you're working through the day or going to school through the day, and then you come home and then you have to work on a mod project, it may be fun at first, but then it's like what was a hobby and what I was doing for fun has now become a bit of a chore, because I experienced that in the Fallout modding scene. Is I was working on projects and it was like people slowly started dropping out because it stopped being fun, and then I found myself finding it difficult because I want to keep this project going, but I get that it is feeling a lot like a job that no one's getting paid for.
That definitely is, especially for anything creative. It's not even like, I mean, obviously, like, yeah, it is for larger mod projects, probably more so because they require a whole lot more planning. a whole lot more follow through and stuff like that. But it applies to just like a lot of things, and again, anything creative. There's a lot of YouTubers, there's a lot of content creators, streamers, this, that, and the other thing that go through the same sort of struggles. I remember a while ago, maybe like a year or so ago, maybe a little longer. There was sort of like a little meme trend going along where like it was kind of like popular to like dunk on live streamers specifically, who would like, stress out like, oh my God, I'm doing all this. This is so hard and stuff like that. Like not like that specifically, but bemoaning a lot of the pressures and struggles that come with live streaming. And then you have people who, I worked 80 hours a day making $6 an hour so I could go home and feed my family of 18, and you think you have it hard, like shit like that. And it's like, there is a difference between the stressors that a physical job, right, a job in the real world space, and then content creation or live streaming and stuff like that. They both, there is a very clear difference in the in what kind of stressors you encounter, but they're still stressors nonetheless. And the more stress we have and the more problems we perceive, the harder it is to maintain like momentum or creative engagement. Because like some days you'll just like even it's especially a bummer like you said when you're working full-time, part-time, university, anything like that, and then like you have like a rough day there, and then like the next day's your day off, and because you had such a draining day previously, you don't really feel like doing anything that day. But then after that, if it's like a weekend thing, half your weekend's already gone. And then by the time the next day starts, it's like, okay, this sucks because now I don't have as much time to do the things that like I want to do.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that the paid mods should be a thing, because I do think that mods are great because you don't have to pay for them. But I do think you should be allowed to support the people making the mods.
And what are your on that specifically? What are your thoughts on like I guess more so directly like paid mods, right? Like the creation system and stuff like that, where modders primarily are the ones creating the, like, not all of them, like it's not like, oh, there's like 5 modders making all of the mods, but there's a lot of like larger creators like Eleonora and King Gath and folks like that, who are making these mods and then selling them on the creation store for a couple bucks, $10. I don't know what like the most expensive mod on the creation club is, but they do still like put out free mods on the Nexus. But when it comes to like consoles and stuff, it's, well, not all the time, but a lot of the times, it is that paid service where it's like, I made something here, I made a product. Here's the product, cash transferred, capitalism achieved. We did it. Pack it up, boys. We're going home.
But King Gath and Eleonora, they are great. I love all their mods. Mm. And I think with them and other creators like them, it should be more of, because their mods are so high quality and they do put so much effort into it, those mods should be framed more like DLC, because they're being officially, supported by Bethesda.
And so like Bethesda should like package them in sort of like a DLC bundle kind of thing, or should like be paying them to make to make content, because I think there definitely is sort of like a pipeline, right? There we've seen it with a number of creators or modders specifically, where they start off as like modders and then they get to be like known and like good modders, and then they go on to become like actual developers at Bethesda. There's very clearly a pipeline or a path there. But when it comes to the creation mod specifically, are you thinking more like Bethesda should pay them so that they can put out like free to download creations, or are you talking about something different?
What I'm saying is I think that their mods are good. Like they kind of break what we consider to be a mod, because a mod kind of is like something that's just tacked on. It's a modification, whereas what they're doing is it could have been part of the game, much like how the Far Harbor or Automatron, they are DLCs that are part of the game.
Sort of like a tiered system, like where, because one of the things that I think is interesting about the creation specifically is that it's more so obviously, like, you know, not anybody can make anything, right? There's like specific rules you have to adhere to when it comes to Bethesda, because it is still like, you know, their face on the product. But there's plenty of different creators that create plenty of different projects for, you know, Starfield, Skyrim, Fallout, all these different individual games. But I guess more so because there's the conversation around like whether or not paid mods are a good thing in the modding space. Which on the one hand, I think it's just a funny conversation, because the majority of people I hear or I see engaging in these conversations are like people who mod specifically like on PC. So it's like the mods that you have access to on PC via the Nexus, even not specifically via the Nexus, but they're always going to be free. One way or the other, they're always going to be free. And then it's also more so like PC players talking about things that really only primarily affect console players, which I think is an interesting dichotomy between the console community of a fandom and the PC community of a fandom. But when it comes to the conversation specifically, obviously there's, you know, people who are like, oh, Bethesda's going to like push these a lot harder, or they're going to, you know, not really like do a whole lot of moderation on the content that's being put out. Some prices are always going to be like $60 for, you know, like, you know, blue skins. I actually remember somebody in my Discord server pointed this out to me. I was originally going to make a short talking about it, but then I'm like, I really don't fucking care all that much about this case specifically. It was like an enhanced perk mod or something like that for Fallout 4. And they were charging for it. I can't remember how much. It wasn't much. I think it was like maybe $5. But they used an AI generated thumbnail for the mod. And that got a lot of blowback, so much to the point that the mod eventually replaced the image with a non-AI generated image. But that is also like another part of the whole conversation, like, you know, the price point, I guess more so use of generative AI in the content at all, whether that sort of like invalidates monetization for it, because I think it's either Spotify or Tidal. One of them is making it so that like you can upload AI music, but you can't get revenue from it. There's just a lot of conversation around whether or not paid mods are something that we should be having in the modding space.
One thing I have been told is that I should be, and I've tried to be, transparent about use of AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I have tried to. On the repository, there is an AI use statement, but I think I should just put it out there that, yes, I've used AI to help me code this mod, but no, it's not vibe coded. AI does not go unchecked. It is manually tested and debugged. It is only used as what it should be, a tool to help.
I think when it comes to with AI specifically, I think there is, because I went to a local gaming event here in Portland, and it was like a bunch of like game designers, and they get together and they all sort of like, you know, are working on their own projects, but then they can kind of like, you know, hobnob, mingle, ask like, oh, you know, what are you working on here? And it was interesting because one of the people that I ran into was a coder by trade. I think he said he worked with C# That sounds impressive. So I'm going to take him at face value there. But we had a brief conversation around like AI in general. And I think there is sort of like more so a general consensus that AI, when it's used for like coding, isn't the biggest deal, because when it comes to like, music or voice or art or anything like that, despite the fact that earlier I ragged on that one mod for using AI in the thumbnail. Well, I guess more so because of that. Like people don't like generative AI when it applies to like artistic endeavors, right? Because they see it as like the machine is trying to replicate or to imitate human creativity. But when it comes to something like coding, as I also sort of mentioned, there is a valid argument to be made that there is a lot of like design or artistic individuality in coding language specifically. It is a much more technical process. And I think more so the general consensus is with coding, generative AI is more so like asking it to solve a math problem, right? Or like tell you the synopsis of a book. It's sort of like gathered collective knowledge in a sense, where it's just trying to expound information or solve a problem instead of trying to create something. Because I think creativity is something that is uniquely human. And while AI is good at technical art, creative art is something that is always like the realm of human capabilities.
Yeah. And the thing is, AI isn't always that good either, because that problem I had with animations where I was stuck on for 2 weeks, AI did not help whatsoever. It was horrible. It did nothing. I was just going in circles with it. And this was after I tried to troubleshoot it myself. But what ended up happening is talking to Doxer, the other guy working on the mod. He already had animations working, and he suggested and helped me decompile the actual animation files to read the names. And that finally got animations working. So after like a week and a half of trying to do this, both myself and with the help of AI, it wasn't the answer, and I actually needed to ask someone.
Yeah, it's funny because when it comes to, I guess more so on that technical level, especially with coding, because like I said, there is a level of design with coding, but it is a much more technical focus. There's coding terminology that maybe not coding, but like IT terminology that I remember learning about at one point, called rubber ducking. And basically the concept is you have like a rubber duck on your desk, and if something's not going right with, like a line of code or like technical troubleshooting, right? You start explaining to the rubber duck how it's supposed to work, what issue it's having, and then sort of like, walking through like, okay, well, if it's having this problem, then that means that the problems could be like this, or this, right? AI, when it applies to coding, is sort of seeming like it's trying to do the same thing, but on like an automated level, like trying to make it so that the duck can talk back to you. The AI will respond, and usually, and I'm more so speaking as somebody who has never used AI to try to code, not because I particularly, have a disdain for AI, but I'm not really doing coding to that level, so I'm not. It's not something I engage with. But it does seem like that's what AI is trying to create in that situation. It's trying to walk through the process, but it's not perfect. So it runs into issues where it just also doesn't know what it's doing.
And my philosophy with AI is I don't use it if I can't understand what it's doing. And because most of the time when I use it, it's like, oh, that was so obvious. Why didn't I get it? But that's because the use of AI is basically It's a glorified Google almost. So instead of having to search up Google and search through thousands of entries of what it could be, AI's like, well, here is it all condensed, and here's how it could be fixed.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a repository of human knowledge in a sense, but we don't want it making pictures because that's the devil's work.
AI art has nothing to do with Commonwealth Online. I do graphic design, so I have made all of the visuals myself. I spent an hour trying to find the right font when I could have said AI just generate the logo with the Fallout 4 font, but I didn't because AI doesn't have a place in art.
Exactly. He's a man of integrity. Don't you dare challenge him on that.
I also wouldn't have been able to do this without Skyrim together, and also their branch of their mod for Fallout 4, because a big thing they helped with was just knowing that it's possible to make.
And that's a big thing in and of itself, just like knowing it is possible. Like, it's one of those things where I kind of expected, like, especially after the New Vegas online kind of thing. Once I started seeing like, oh, Skyrim server where you can like role play as like a smith or like a hunter or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds about right. I figured that would probably be coming out like eventually since they did it for New Vegas, but like, cool, it's possible. And then I saw your project pop up and I'm like, oh, let's go.
Because again, with animations, I think I was like half a week into trying to solve it, and I was like, maybe this just isn't possible. But then I went back and I actually looked at the videos of this Skyrim Together port for Fallout 4, and it was like, they have animations working, and they're working well. So there must just be something I'm missing. But again, it wouldn't be possible without the community, because other modders have been a great help. Like, there's this guy Nomad who's made a basically made it so you can use HTML to code UI for Fallout 4, and without him there would be no server browser or anything, because it is impossible to edit the Fallout 4 UI files. Like, when it comes to paid mods, I think it would be like, let's say Kingath didn't make it and Bethesda was putting it out there. Would you be like, yeah, that's a DLC, or do you think that would be better as a mod? I think some settlements, possibly, and other things he's made. Like, there was one for Starfield, which was like $5, I think. And
yeah, Watchtower.
They are good. Yeah, Watchtower. People have said, we don't mind paying for that because it's so good. And I'm like, Bethesda's phrasing them as mods, but I think they would make more sense as actually more of like a DLC. Like, Bethesda said that they are selling these as DLC instead of paid mods, because I think it's the term paid mods that making the bad name. Because when paid mods, I mean, you could get something that's just like a retexture for a gun, or you could get Fallout London.
I get, because like part of the conversation is also sort of like, oh, like if these modders want to get paid for the stuff that they do, you open up a Patreon and stuff like that. But for the creative, that's not always the most like reliable option, because then you're more so like literally depending strictly on like the kindness of strangers. And while, in a lot of instances that is like fine enough to do, if you're trying to like, make it sustainable or make it like a bigger part of your career, it's not really the best. But I think you raised an interesting question, or not question, an interesting hypothesis, wherein people creating specifically for like Creation Club, yeah, sure, maybe there's like a system where they're making content, and then like there's, instead of like price points attached to it, there's like quality ratings, right? Like, a star system, like, out of 5 or whatever, and people can rate their mods and stuff. And in order to like, avoid, I guess, duplicates, like negative review bombs and stuff like that, which has just become like a trend over the last couple of years. Like any game that does even the smallest thing wrong has some sort of like, negative review bombing campaign. So maybe like if you already reviewed it, it's kind of like locked in. You can't change it later, this, that, and the other thing or whatever. And then like the mods that have like the highest quality, and they're from modders who can like consistently put out higher quality mods, they're then like brought on by Bethesda to actually like create proper like paid DLC style mods, right? Maybe not like actual full like, hey, we Bethesda have an idea and we want you to make it, but more so like, maybe not like bundle packs specifically, but like, hey, here's like a bigger project that again, Eleonora or King Gath made, and in partnership with Bethesda, we're selling it on creations for like $10, and it's a whole like big huge, maybe not massive quest story, but like a bigger thing, and it's like, oh, $5, $10, depending on like the size and scope of the project. Is that more so what you're conceptualizing here, or could be conceptually relevant?
Take some settlements. I mean, if Bethesda snuck that into the list of DLC, you've got Automatron, you've got Far Harbor, you've got Contraptions, you've got Wasteland Workshop, you've got some settlements, you've got Vault Tech, you've got Nuka World, some settlements slots right in there, because it's like, it's such a good mod, and it's so well made that you wouldn't even blink at it being a DLC if you didn't know it was a mod. But essentially what I'm like is, why can't modders set up a Patreon and say, if you love this mod, pay, like, support us, help us make it? You can't do that, because like with any other game, it's like, if you're making your own game, it's like, we're making this game, if you want to support us, then you can. Whereas with Fallout modding, it's like, even though you might be making a basically brand new game for Fallout 4, you're not allowed to get support like that.
Yeah, it seems a little, it seems not specifically unfair, because there's, I mean, like, let's be real, fucking nobody has money anymore these days. We're all collectively broke. It is sort of that thing where it's like, hey, I made something, you can get it for free here. It would also be cool if you kicked me a couple of bucks, and then no, you already got it. Okay, all right. Well, I hope you enjoy. It's one of those things where it's like, you get into it for the love of the game, but then you also got to eat. Yeah. And you specifically have an interesting perspective on it from both, right? Because not only are you a longtime modder yourself and actively working on this, in my opinion, potentially huge mod for the Fallout community. I checked the video out on YouTube specifically. It's like you posted in the Discord and stuff. But then I checked on the YouTube, and I was surprised. There's only like 300 views on this video as of the time of our recording. And I would have thought that something like this would have gotten at least a little bit more attention, but I haven't seen I haven't seen a Reddit post. I haven't seen a Twitter post. I haven't seen hardly any communication. I would dare say to wager that one of the biggest attention drawers to this project is probably going to be this podcast. I mean, it kind of depends on how the rest of the week goes, but I'm surprised. Have you seen? I mean, you're the one promoting it and stuff like that. Have you seen big attention around it so far?
I've made posts on Reddit, and people have been interested, and it's gotten a fair amount of views on Reddit. But there hasn't been much. But then again, the Fallout community has gotten their hopes up and their hearts broken over multiplayer mods before. So I don't blame them. And that's another reason why I am going to release Commonwealth Online so far in its basic, you can fight each other and see each other state, is so people know, well, it's kind of working. I can download it and play it now. So Like, 'cause this isn't like all the other Fallout mods where you have the source code, but you have to build it yourself, or you see photos and then the project gets cancelled. Even if something happens and this project ends, there's still going to be a basic version of it out there where you can walk around the Commonwealth with people at the bare minimum.
And I think that even just that, right? Even if it's like, even if it's just to the point where you can only like walk around in Fallout 4 with just one person, that's still a pretty interesting experience. And there's definitely like a lot of, when it comes to like gaming specifically, I always sort of think of, because I'm sort of like dabbling a little bit in like game design myself. Not like a lot of my focus is in like writing and stuff like that. But I'm sort of like dabbling in it a little bit. But there's always like a much bigger focus from what I've seen as like, because also as like, you know, a streamer and a content creator, I kind of like, you know, keep up with that stuff. And especially with like the rise and like absolute domination of, you know, friend slop games, right? It seems that now more than ever, there's a much stronger focus on creating games that, while, yeah, definitely still games that, you know, have like great stories or great gameplay and, you know, leave long lasting impressions because you're just like, oh my God, I could do this thing in the game, like Crisis, for example. Like, you remember, maybe it wasn't Crisis.
I think it's Just Cause.
That was it. It was Just Cause 2. Yeah.
I put hours into that game.
Yeah. But like that still like today kind of goes hard just because of like what you can like physically do in the game, right? Gameplay is memorable in an experience like that. Stories are memorable in like, you know, Insomniac games, and a lot of more not story heavy games, but games that have a more like narrative focus or a cinematic, or trying to create like a cinematic experience. But they do the same thing that, well, I mean, you know, friend slop games are trying to do the same thing that those games are doing and creating those strong memories. It's just with those games, those memories are more so around a community or a communal focus. And that seems that like at baseline, that's what this project is. It's about creating a communal. It's about creating memories within the community within these games.
The thing is, as much as I would love the community to like it, at the end of the day, I kind of don't care, because this mod is for me and for my friends. And if other people love it, then that's great. But even if the entire community hated it and wish I never made it, don't care, because it's not for them, it's for me and my friends.
And that really is, at the end of the day, like anything creative you do, right? That really is the number one focus. Whether you make something and it's good or it's bad, as long as it's something that you can look back on and think, I'm really glad I did this, that's kind of the whole point. If you make something and other people enjoy it, that's fantastic. But if you make something and you're not enjoying it, are you really being creative?
Because, I mean, yeah, I would love, if you're listening to this podcast, go play it, go give feedback, find bugs. And I love that people would love it. But, I mean, yeah, if nobody ever sees it and nobody ever plays it and it's just me and my friends, that's fine, because that's all it was intended to be at the start.
Friend slop.
Yeah.
The wave of the future.
On Reddit, someone said you should make a Patreon, we'd donate to you, and I said, nope, this project is always going to be free. I'm not going to get anything off of it, because one, I never was going to anyway, and second, I don't think this project should have that.
Yeah, like there shouldn't be the not specifically the expectation of support, but more so it like you said, it's something that you're designing for you and your friends to just like play and enjoy. You're not designing it as like, oh, I want this to eventually be something one day. I want this to be something that like is attached to me and I can like put on a resume, or I can like, you know, create like a standing for myself in the community in some regard.
Yeah, no, this is just I'm making it because I want to play it with my friends. But if I can play it, then others should be allowed to as well.
Exactly. You hear that, everybody? Go play Commonwealth Online. Play it with your friends. Don't have friends? Guess what? You got a bunch now because they're all going to be playing it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I'm going to host a few servers myself for anyone to join. So you don't have to set up your own server and invite your friends. You can join one of the public servers and hopefully there'll be people online.
Yep. This is going to go up on YouTube. So check the link. His socials will be there. The Discord will probably be there. The Discord should be there if Future Toshi's doing his fucking job. But go play it. Check it out. It's going to be awesome. Everybody's going to love it. Everybody's going to enjoy it. Bobby Bear is going to be right up there next to King Gath and Eleonora. Everybody's going to love it.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Bobby Bear, modder, game developer, and lead of the Commonwealth Online, a Fallout 4 co-op multiplayer experience. Once again, this interview is to coincide with the mod's early release beta testing. If you and your friends are interested in playing, check the description for links to take part. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow to be notified of future episodes, and consider subscribing to our Patreon for early access to new uploads, to help keep episodes ad-free, and to improve the quality and frequency of transmission. Until next time, dear listener, I thank you for tuning in, and I will see you all out there in the wasteland.